When Bauhaus released their debut single, Bela Lugosi's Dead, in 1979, it single-handedly invented the goth genre. It's all here. Bats, church bell towers, vampires, death. To this day, it's totally immersive and a fully realised vision. And I've always been fascinated by how a band arrives seemingly fully formed out of nothing in the way that Bauhaus did, with such a clear sound and visual aesthetic. Today, I want to look at the rarities, artifacts and bootlegs which shine some light onto this dark crypt. A little while ago, a few copies of a bootleg record titled Bauhaus, the 1979 demo recordings, showed up on eBay. It purported to be taken from a live in-studio recording taken between their debut single and their debut LP, In the Flat Field. And, as a literal card-carrying goth myself, I had to check it out. You'll have to excuse the bite marks on the corner of my copy. My own little gothic horror attacked it.
Is it you? Are you horrible? Did you buy all my shit?
To understand this record, we need to understand the band that made it. Forming in the dog end of 1978, you've got lead singer Peter Murphy, guitarist Daniel Ash, and the brothers David J. and Kevin Askins. David, Kevin and Daniel had been playing in bands for a while. Daniel had in fact been the only white member of a funk band called MI5. But once they got the right combination of people together, they felt like this new band had the potential to go somewhere. The influences for Bauhaus were obvious. They were the archetypal art school kids who loved Lou Reed, David Bowie, Mark Bolan and Iggy Pop. They had appreciated punk rock for blasting away the overpaid stadium rockers, but were too young to have gotten on the first wave of punk. But that's not to say that Bauhaus were late to the party by any means. In goth terms, 1979 is remarkably early. The Cure had not yet released A Forest, the Batcave club in London was still 3 years away from opening, and the Sisters of Mercy were 6 years away from their debut album. With Bela Lugosi's Dead, they were true pioneers. During rehearsals, they put together some chords that Daniel Ash had come up with these lyrics that David had written. They felt they had instantly got magic, so they booked some studio time. The shocking thing about Bela Lugosi's Dead is that was their first time in a studio, and they knocked it out in the exact first take. They really had captured magic. The song's 9 minutes long, but you don't mind at all. The atmosphere is incredible. It sounds trite to say, but it's gothic, it's haunting. It makes you feel like you're in Dracula's castle. The thing about getting magic in a bottle like that, though, is how do you follow it up? And there's some indication that, although they had a vision of what they wanted to be, that was kind of a difficult question for them. In 2018, in advance of the 40th anniversary, they re-released the Bela Lugosi's Dead single, and they actually included some never-before-heard songs recorded at the same time. And the other songs do show some lack of direction. Why the fuck is my goth band playing ska? And yeah, ska was different back then, and they were pulling from dub on the sound of Bela Lugosi's Dead, I know, but come on. The band knew a good thing when they had it though, so they took that single and ran, directly into John Peel's radio booth, and literally demanded he play it. It was a success. John Peel gave them a Peel session, and the band signed to 4AD, where they would put out their next singles and eventual first album. So what's on this bootleg then? It's more commonly circulated under the title Weniger ist mehr, meaning less is more. This bootleg is 12 tracks long, but the first 8 of these we can easily identify as coming from a 1997 CD called Bauhaus Live in the Studio 1979, which was actually an officially endorsed release by their label. Originally bundled with a book called Bauhaus Beneath the Mask, the recordings are taken from a cassette tape and restored a little. It's exactly what it says on the tin, the band playing through their live set together in a studio.
Get on with it! Yes, get on with it!
The first song here is In the Night. Which they would eventually record for their third album, The Sky's Gone Out. It's basically in its complete form here, with just the audio quality letting it down. It's kind of a weak song on the record, especially lyrically, which may be why they left it so long to put it on an album in the first place. But the version here has a sharp punk energy that highlights that the song probably killed in a live setting. The second cut here is God in an Alcove, which similarly played with a more tense punk energy. The icy guitar is louder here than on the version which makes the record. I like this, and you can hear them play it with this sort of energy in their live John Peel session, which is collected on the great release Swing the Heartache. The sinister tone and more gothic lyrics make it closer to Bela Lugosi's Dead, which is why I think they chose to put it on their first album. Track 3 on this bootleg is a stone cold classic, Dark Entries. Now we're talking.
Okay, let's go.
That guitar riff, even in the low fidelity, sounds amazing. Man, I love this song. The downside is that I just played you over half of what's on this bootleg. For some reason, it cuts short.
We're discussing my open seating pressure lines of unconfident deaths, intangible price, trying so hard to find what was right.
It's frustrating because it's the song I'd most want to hear an early version of, and it's one of only 2 that fades out prematurely. Dark Entries would end up being their next single, and their first with 4AD, and it's pretty obvious why it was chosen. The whole band are contributing to this song, from the tight, tense drumming to the iconic guitar riff and suitably haunting lyrics. When 4AD put this out, they gave it this great packaging. I love the stylization of Bauhaus on the cover. One final thing that's really weird about this is that if you've got the Bela Lugosi's Dead 12-inch single, you actually have this recording. It's untitled and uncredited on the back, but it's there, fade out and all in its shortened form. It's so weird. The next song here is Telegram Sam, a cover of a T-Rex song, and it was a staple of Bauhaus's live set from the very beginning. It was also quickly an audience favourite. Simon Reynolds' book on Glam is essential for any fan of rock music history, and in it he positions glam rock as the precursor to punk, claiming that glam was a necessary setup for punk, both musically and culturally. Music writer Chris Ott extends this theory by positioning goth as the sequel to punk, driven by Susie and the Banshees continuing punk's fight after the Sex Pistols broke up. In this context, I would say that Bauhaus's glam covers are really the dialectical final form. We have the thesis, the antithesis, and the synthesis. The punchline here is that their recording isn't actually very good, and when they put it out as a single, it drastically underperformed. The version here is especially weak and amateurish, much more interesting theoretically than it is musically.
Telegram Sam, you're my main man. No, Slim.
Bauhaus would attempt the same trick again in 1982 when they covered Ziggy Stardust, which rose all the way up to number 15 on the charts. A great success for a band on an independent label, and a much better cover. Getting back to the bootleg, however, the next early version that we can hear on this is Nerves, which would go on to close their first album. Of all of the tracks here, I think Nerves best benefited from the full studio production heft that they could give that riff. But this is another instance where the idea is fully formed, they just needed studio production on the tracks. The next song, Honeymoon Croon, was in their live sets from the start, but wouldn't find its way onto a record all the way until their fourth album, which is understandable too, as it is, frankly, shit. That distortion there is an example of the bootleg being much worse quality than the CD is. That's the sort of thing they cleaned up in the 1997 release. After that rough cut, the next one is much better, and I'd say a real diamond in this set. This is the song Kamikaze Dive, and in my opinion, it has all of the makings of a classic post-punk dance-punk banger. It actually made it on to their first record. Take a listen to how they neutered it. What are you guys doing? It was perfect before! The only thing that I can think is that the early live version was too punky, and they were trying to reject that, similar to how Joy Division dramatically toned down Interzone for Unknown Pleasures. Incidentally, Ian Curtis did actually attend a Bauhaus show while he was alive. He hung out with the guys backstage afterwards and said he was a fan of their music, which I think is just lovely. That fact makes me very happy. Also the fact that Tony Wilson from Factory Records was also there, and he left early because real bands don't wear makeup. That's so funny to me. But yeah, check out this early version of Kamikaze Dive. It almost makes the entire CD worth it. It's great. The last track that's coming from the official CD is Show's Fragment. This is the other song that fades out early, and it's of particular interest as Shows was never released on any album or anywhere else apart from a very low quality live recording which is on YouTube.
Never shows them, never knows them, always out them, sometimes lays them for a moment. They could make it a sensation of those faces. Ha!
The vocal melody strongly reminds me of In the Flat Field, so I do wonder if part of this song got recycled into that. There's a big Stooges energy to the song, but I do understand why it was dropped. It doesn't at all fit with the dark, gothic direction that they'd tapped into with Bela Lugosi's Dead. That covers the 8 tracks from the officially sanctioned CD, but on the bootleg record there are 4 more. So let's take a listen to what comes after Shows.
My baby, how big you'll be in a very little while. You'll be going to school and you won't want your daddy then, will you, darling? Oh, I wish you could be my baby all the time. I wonder what the future holds.
What the fuck is this? I genuinely have no idea what I'm listening to here. I searched those words as like a quote on Google, and I found a blog that mentioned it in a review of Bauhaus's third album, The Sky's Gone Out, saying he didn't know where it was from either. But here's the thing, I've listened to a lot of Bauhaus in my time, and I am sure that I've never heard that before. Here's the thing, it's not on the Spotify version or the digital re-releases. I had to download a vinyl rip on redacted.ch and scroll to the very end, and yeah, it's there.
My baby, how big you'll be in a very little while. You'll be going to school and you won't want your daddy then, will you, darling? Oh, I wish you could be my baby all the time. I wonder what the future holds.
Okay, so that answers like half of it, but also, what the fuck is this? I found 2 answers to this question. The blog that I found when I searched the quote also asked, what is this? And someone in the comments said it was from Bertolt Brecht's play, Baal. But I flicked through a copy on archive.org and I couldn't find it in there. Someone else linked an archived Q&A with Kevin Askins, who said it came from a spoken word album that their producer had as a child, who copied it to a tape when they were making the album. Okay, again, what spoken word album? What the fuck is this? The only other results on Google are like 4 results of people referencing it in the context of this album. Please, can somebody who watches this find out what this sample is and let me know in the comments? Because it's so bizarre. Anyway, I've got massively off topic. What else is on this bloody record? No, definitely not. Not in 1979.
Next single.
That's not their next single. Their next single was Dark Entries. That's because these 2 tracks are taken from the deluxe CD of Mask, which includes studio outtakes on the second CD. Naughty, naughty bootleggers. They're always trying to pull some shit like this, making my life hard. And the final of the bonus 4 tracks is Spirit in the Sky. I know what this is.
When I die and they lay me to rest, I wanna go to the place that's the best.
This is, of course, a cover of Norman Greenbaum's Spirit in the Sky. After Bauhaus broke up, they put out an extremely limited single of Sanity Assassin, which was only available to order through mail through their fan club. This single was extremely rare, probably only 300 copies were made. Spirit in the Sky was the B-side, and due to its rarity and cost in collectors' circles, this track was widely bootlegged before eventually being officially included in the 2013 singles compilation. But basically, I'm not mad that the bootlegger threw this in as a bonus, because it's a fun and interesting track. They were a bit cheeky with those Ziggy Stardust and Hollow Hills versions, though. And that's the whole boot. If you're a Bauhaus fan, I'd suggest picking up the official CD over this bootleg, as the sound quality is markedly worse across the whole runtime on this pressing compared to the CD. I do think that the sessions are worth a listen. That version of Kamikaze Dive is great. A lot of goth music tends to get overlooked in conversations about post-punk, and Bauhaus is no different. I personally believe that Bela Lugosi's Dead and In the Flat Field are two of the best post-punk albums going, goth or not. And this collection of tracks shows the band becoming what they would be. Just like Joy Division, we can see them throwing off punk and choosing to go for a darker, starker, more gothic sound. And in doing so, they genuinely changed music forever. I'm only left with a few questions. Why is Dark Entries cut short on the Bela Lugosi's Dead single? What the fuck is going on with My Baby? Genuinely, what the fuck is that? If you have any ideas what My Baby is, please let me know in the comments, because I got so distracted while working on this video. I've been Howard Hands TV. Thanks for watching.
My baby. How big you'll be in a very little while. You'll be going to school and you won't want your daddy then, will you, darling? Oh, I wish you could be my baby all the time. I wonder what the future holds.